Welcome to another week with Lakhi Singh, property fixer, the expert, the entrepreneur, the socialite, the networker, and we'll have a host of calls and emails. This week, just to let you know, we've refrained from calls because we had more people ringing through and people then got frustrated about not being able to speak and present their questions. So this week is going to be more emails, and what we've done is we've compiled common questions and we're going to be throwing those questions to Lakhi for his answers, so people can get to an understanding of how it is that Lakhi Singh, through his new group, the Business and the Property Alternative Business Solutions community, can help people solve their business and property problems. So hi Lakhi, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good. Right, so today we're going to be limited with calls, but we're going to be doing emails, and what we've decided to do is try and collect a common lot of questions from the emails and give them to you. So let me just check. Got the first. Right, got an email from Pat from Northern Ireland who says they are looking for development funding. So it's around 50 million and it's a commercial block of offices. Can you help? Can you fix that problem, please?
Well, we can fix any problem really. What we need is the information to understand how the whole project is set up. So best thing to do is to direct mail me a lot more information. I need to know the end gross development value. I need to know how much they purchased it for, what type of lending they got on it already. So I think the devil's going to be in the detail, I'm afraid.
Okay, so again, as we've got, there is a solution, but you must go to the Business and Property Alternative community to get solutions and get the answers to your problems. Obviously, we try to put the problems to Mr. Singh here, but the issue is going to be there's more information that's required for a genuine solution to be delivered. So I think the best thing to do is go on to Lakhi Singh Property Fixer website, or go directly into the Facebook group called the Alternative Business and Property Solutions Community, and with Lakhi Singh Property Fixer, and put your questions there, look for an invite, and hopefully he's quite positive that he can get you a solution. Another email that's come up, this has come from Patricia Everett from Leeds, who says she has a number of HMOs and they are now under a lot of repairs. So they've got a lot of repairs due on them. And is there a way that Lakhi Singh can assist in raising finance to help her in the renovations? So basically, I think the common question that's revolving around a lot of the callers and the emails, and that I think revolves around the question of finance or money. Is that what you're finding in the market, Lakhi? Is that what a lot of the problems revolve around, or is it the mix?
I think major problems actually stem around from money. So that is the most common problem. But a lot of people have a roundabout way of coming to it. Some people come to me saying, I've got a legal problem, but the legal problem is usually tied to them wanting to access some sort of asset or to raise finance. Or it tends to be an issue with trying to get a quick sale done, but the quick sale is done often related to actually raising funds for a project. So it all does stem down to raising finance. So in this particular issue with the HMO, there's a number of strategies, probably I can think of about 15 off the top of my head actually, of actually releasing capital or raising equity. So one or two simple ones are that we can simply refinance the HMO or get a second charge on a commercial asset or an unencumbered asset. And because it's going into investment purposes, they can also refinance against their personal assets as a second charge into the company and then get a loan against that. So all of it's possible. And if they've got clean credit, good income, that will certainly help them to get a very low rate. If they've got some credit issues or defaults or CCJs, the good thing is that we still have access to a pool of private lenders that will lend on a sort of non-status basis. They won't look at your credentials so much as they will look at the quality of your assets. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I've got another email that came through earlier on. We had it grouped together, and it's regarding the question of credit files. So, caller is Brian Duseal, and he says, I've got a good job, I'm on a good income, but my credit file keeps hindering my ability to purchase buy-to-let properties. Can Lakhi Singh fix it? So I think the question revolves around credit file. You mentioned it there as well, CCJs. And I think there's a lot of things like that that affect people's credit files to lead them out of a position of getting normal finance because their credit history has been spoiled. So what do you offer in the way of assistance for the repair of credit files? Have you got anything? Or
well, we generally have access to a lot of mortgage brokers that we work with, and they have a specific criteria for helping you to improve your credit rating, but they're quite basic principles. So the first one is if you spend the next 6 months repairing your credit position by ensuring all your credit cards are paid on time, you're not having any missed payments, certainly just developing 6 month or a year-long track record. Having credit cards, funnily enough, is actually a good thing from a credit point of view, because if you're paying your credit cards on time, then you're seen as a better bet in terms of credit. So it's just getting the basic fundamentals of your day-to-day finances in check. Those things alone will actually have a fairly significant impact in your credit. But if you do have quite impaired credit because you had lots of missed payments or defaults or CCJs over the last 3 months, especially with COVID-19 happening, and people's jobs being affected and their incomes being affected, and if you can't raise money to actually easily be in a good sort of financial position, then there is an opportunity to recover from that problem over the next 6 months by doing things. So
you're saying properly. So you're saying it'll take 6 months for them to repair their credit.
That's right.
Okay, so there's the answer for you, Brian. 6 months, and hopefully you can. And you've got a solution or somebody there in your team of experts who can give that advice or at least can assist.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's quite basic things, but we're happy to. We've got a panel available 9 to 5 o'clock to talk to them about every aspect of their financial journey. So they're more than welcome to put post that can be anonymous.
That's interesting. Another very interesting topic that's come up. This is from a Bob in the north who says, my mortgage term is due to expire next September 2021. I have no means of paying off the interest, which is circa £400,000 at the end of my mortgage term. How do I negotiate with the bank? So I think this alludes to mortgagors who've got properties, who've got mortgages, and they took out interest-only mortgages, And I think about 5 years, 10 years ago, the endowment mortgages industry failed. So a lot of people were left without any payment vehicle to pay off the interest on the actual mortgage. So what advice, how can you help people raise the money to pay off their mortgage at the end of the term? And bearing in mind, Bobby is probably around the 65 plus mark. So he doesn't have a lot of room to get into a new career or make extra money. So how can the property fixer help him?
There's a three-step approach. Number one, we need a full understanding of your situation. So, for example, have you got a house that you live in? What's the value of that? What's the debts on it? Have you got any other properties? Income, other properties in joint names. Once we understand the very basics, let's assume that your house is highly geared. Let's just say that we're in an area where the property prices have fallen drastically. Your value of your house is 100,000, but the debt is 110. Let's just say with this particular problem, you basically your whole issue you've got is now your whole debt mountain. If you're in that type of situation, we have a solution. We are experts in writing off negative equity debt, and we've had 100% success in the cases we've taken on. Mind you, we turn away quite a few cases as well. So we only take on cases where we feel we can deliver 100%. So if you've got negative equity problems or coming in end of term on something that you can't afford to pay, then certainly we would review it, and our team would give you an assessment. And if we're confident something can be done to completely absolve you of that whole debt and land you back on your feet with a clean credit report as well, then we certainly have a in-house solution for that. So we're the only people in the UK with that type of solution available to help people with negative equity problems.
Okay, that's quite interesting, because the next email that we have is a gentleman in Wales who says he has a property portfolio and a state agency, and his basic question is, he says, I have a shortfall in the monies that I need to pay off deposits to my tenants, and is there a way that I can raise money off the properties to be able to pay off their tenant deposits? So I assume this lures to people who have got estate agencies who've taken deposits from their tenants. That deposit has been used either in repairs or it's been used in other expenses, and they're trying to now get in some money to pay off tenants whose contracts have expired. So do you have anything like that? Can you solve that problem?
So first of all, I think I just have to say, be quite blunt about it, I think as an organisation you shouldn't really be using tenant deposit money for your cash flow as a business. So I think that's a major fundamental mistake. But regardless of that, if you're in that predicament, then there are solutions to raising finance to get the business back into good stead and to clean practice. So number one would be that we could look at raising business loan for you, which is quite a simple thing. If you've got good turnover, good income, I don't see why we couldn't raise money. So it all depends on the numbers. The second thing is that if the business is vital to your long-term earnings and you want to keep the business, then we can also look at your personal assets, your buy-to-let portfolio if you've got one, or your house, to see if there's any way that there's enough equity in those properties to be able to warrant getting finance against them. So those are 2 or 3 very simple things that we look at right from day one. But there are other ways of skinning a cat as well. But we probably need to talk and have a chat about your situation in more detail to see really what other ways we can get around this particular issue.
Okay, that's okay. That's again for a lot of these people, in order to get in contact with you and get those solutions, what should they do? How do they get in contact with you? And how do they get these solutions?
We run a 24-hour manned community, and in that community, from 9 to 5 o'clock, we have a panel of experts. I think 5 people working across the board, from helping you do a quick sale.
Yeah.
If you're looking to buy, help you to buy a property, find assets. And if you've got a tax issue or a finance issue, business loan issue, there's a finance person on there who's fully versed with with access to the all of market for any lending. Then we also have a negative equity team that would help you to deal with any negative equity problems.
Yeah.
So that team has tons of knowledge to be able to help people out of that problem.
Okay.
Problem they've got.
That makes sense. Okay. So in general, you've got a team of experts. That's what you say. That's on the Facebook group. Can you explain more what these experts are about? What do they cover?
So Jean looks after our buyers, and if you're looking to buy assets anywhere around the country, she would have knowledge of maybe pools of sellers that are looking to sell. Then Anan on the LPA property side is an expert in property sales. He covers the whole country. So if you're looking to sell something quickly, then he'll actually have a pool of sellers or people that are looking for instruction to sell quickly. He'll be able to advise you that's the best way, because we don't want you to get stuck. Then the finance guy is a gentleman called Barhan, who looks after all the finance administration for anything from £20,000-30,000 finance raise, 25,000 upwards actually, going up to 10, 20 million, 50 million type raises for development projects. And then we've got Mr. Nawaz, who specializes in any legal issues around stopping repossession, around LPA receivers, around debt settlement, also credit repair, or it could be basic issues which are such as conveyancing, just finding the best conveyancer.
Yeah.
As we've got 200 conveyancers on our panel.
Yeah. Okay. So you got conveyancers as well on your panel.
We'll have access to all of them, but those are the go-to people. And then if you need anybody quick, or who basically with the cheapest price, or who specializes in maybe something that's a bit niche, certainly our practitioners will be able to help you.
That's good. Okay. Let me go to another email that's come through from Jane. Jane asks, her question actually revolves more around Law Property Act. So she's saying, I've had LPA receivers appointed and I haven't had any order or any papers from the court, but they have threatened to take control of my property portfolio. So is that right? Can they threaten to take control of your portfolio? What are the laws around the LPA? What are they? What are they allowed to do? And what are they not allowed to do?
So on this forum, I'm not really going to go into anything technical again, because I try to oversee the team, but I have got a panel of experts who specialize in LPA receivership. So if anybody's got a question like that, I try not to get into the answers, but my understanding of it is that if somebody, banks appointed LPA receivers, basically they may not contractually be allowed to do that. So it all comes down to the small print in the contract that you signed when you took on your mortgage or your bridge or your finance. So without looking at that contract, without looking at the detail, I wouldn't know, but in principle, they would have found a clause that they didn't like. For example, you know, if you're in arrears by 3 months, they've got the right to appoint an agent to collect cash directly from the tenants, the rentals. If that's the case, they may somewhat be entitled to do that. But because we are the leading specialists of the LP receivers in the country, if there is a way that you can actually fight your cause for keeping your property and getting it back from receivers, then certainly we would be the best people to talk to. Anybody in the UK, I would say, in terms of getting assistance in that particular problem.
Okay, I think the question she's asking obviously isn't so much that she's asking basically, can they do that? Can they, without going to court, can they threaten you? Can they take control of your properties? I mean, that's really what she's asking. Is that right? Is that possible? Can they do that? Why are they not going to court? Because she's relying, I think what she's done is she's probably relying more upon court orders, you know, being sent to her. She goes to court. She has a right to defend herself. This is seems a bit drastic. I think that's what she's probably trying to say.
So basically, if you live in a residential house and then you're in arrears, normally you'd have to go to court to fight the bank to keep your house.
That's it. That's exactly the point.
In cases where you've got a buy-to-let property, if you've got a buy-to-let property or you've got a commercial asset like a retail shop or an office block or industrial building, then the contracts you sign are quite different, and they're considered to be commercial. So they can technically appoint receivers if you've defaulted on the contract. And it's called the Law of Property Act. I think it's 1926, and they are actually allowed to do it. But if sometimes banks will actually go an extra mile to actually create a problem that doesn't exist just because they're trying to close their mortgage. One of the big culprits is Mortgage Express. I think it's quite well known in the market that they've been trying to close their mortgage book for a lot of portfolio clients with more than 5 properties.
Okay, that's interesting because we had an email this afternoon as well that came through from a client, and he mentioned that the banks have taken over. This is scroll down, find it. Right, this is from John Rye. It says, right, the bank took my property portfolio into a global restructuring group. So his bank was Royal Bank of Scotland. So it's RBS. They've taken his property portfolio into a global restructuring group, and from there they have started to sell the assets. So they basically took the properties, put them into a global restructuring group, and then they started to sell the assets. And he said he had quite a strong property portfolio, so he didn't have any, he didn't fail in his contractual terms. So how does that relate? How does that happen?
What tends to happen is there was a TV program, I think by Horizon or Panorama, literally about a year and a half, 2 years ago, called "How the Banks Wrecked My Business." Talks about this particular issue about the global restructuring groups for a lot of banks. That's just, I think, it's Lloyd's and various others. They're called the global restructuring group. For quite a few of them, and they've been known for doing a lot of malpractice. So they, rather than give you reasonable time to try and sort out your affairs, as soon as they see even a penny, something go wrong, even mildly on the contract, they will go in and they will literally take on the properties and start collecting rents and trying to sell them. Never mind really how good your position is, they'll be completely ruthless. So if you're in a position where you are dealing with that level of group in a bank, then I would say you're in a very vulnerable position. So you may just be sitting there like a sitting duck, So if you're not careful of understanding who you're dealing with and what their policies are, you may actually do something inadvertently to completely get everything eaten up by the bank and end up bankrupt. So this is not a little common, it's quite common practice with the global restructuring groups within the large banks.
Okay, so there you have it, listeners. You can hear Lakhi Singh's got a lot of knowledge on various aspects of properties. And I'm sorry this week we've not been able to call us because we've had a complaint that lots of people had to hold on for a call. They didn't get through by the time the show finished. So we tried to rely upon more emails this week, but we'll keep changing as and when the climate changes. So maybe we'll have the online calls next week or as soon as we can. But you see a lot of different types of problems that we've got in the market where Lakhi Singh and his alternative business group can help find solutions. So thank you so much, Mr. Lakhi, this week again for your time and for the trouble of giving us your expert opinion and giving us a little snippet of how you help people fix their property business requirements. So good afternoon and speak to you next week. See you then.
Well, thank you again, listeners, and just be careful out there, stay safe, and remember, the Fixer is here to help.
Lakhi Singh, the Fixer, is that right?
That's the one. We think we got to do it together to make it work. 1, 2, 3.
The Fixer. Right,
There
okay. Thank you.